So we know for a fact that Anthony Joshua is having his next fight in the United States against Big Baby Miller. It also seems probable that Tyson Fury may have his next fight in the United States, although it's not been confirmed yet. And there's also the possibility, with rumors of another ESPN top-ranked deal, that Dillian Whyte may have his next fight or perhaps next few fights in the United States as well. So I'm seeing a lot of British fans reacting to this badly. They're upset. They're saying we're losing all our fighters. They're going over to America. They're abandoning the British fans. They're really upset about this, apparently. Well, here's my take on it. I grew up in the 1980s and 1990s watching American boxing. Most of my favorite fighters were then and still are American. From Mike Tyson to Roy Jones, James Toney, Tommy Hearns, etc. America produced some incredible talent and incredible fights back then. But over the past 15 years, American boxing has been on a steady decline. The American public have largely turned their backs on it, and it's now little more than a niche sport over there. And for me, as a big fan of American boxing, that's a shame. It's a damn shame. I would like to see American boxing return to those glory days. When I stayed up, I still do stay up to watch American boxing on a regular basis. So, British fighters going over there to fight, yeah, it's inconvenient because it's nice to be able to watch at a decent time. But at the end of the day, I still stay up all the time and watch American fights. So it doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. And the way I see it, with American boxing being on the decline for so many years, I see it as Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are actually helping the sport by fighting over in America. Yeah, they're helping the sport. They're helping revive the American interest in boxing by staging their own Brit invasion, like the Beatles did back in the 1960s. This whole UK versus US thing. That rivalry, the fan rivalry, might be annoying at times, but believe it or not, it actually helps the sport. And that rivalry will encourage more young American kids to take up boxing rather than basketball, gridiron, or MMA, and defend the honor of their country. I know it sounds corny, but human psychology actually works like that sometimes. So if it takes Fury, Joshua, Dillian Whyte going over to the United States and maybe even basing themselves over there for a while, if it takes that to revive American boxing, then I'm all for it. Because again, I love American boxing. I grew up watching American boxing. I stayed up with my brother watching the Holyfield Bowl trilogy late at night. Mike Tyson fights, Roy Jones, James Toney. I loved them days. The glory days of American boxing. And even in the UK, we love a lot of American fighters. Mike Tyson, to this day, is still extremely popular in the UK. Even someone like James Toney, when he came over to the UK a few years ago to fight in Prize Fighter, he got an emperor's welcome. James Toney was blown away by how welcomed he was as a veteran fighter, as a guy who was very much on the tail end of his career. The British fans appreciated him. And he went home and he said, you know what? I got to be honest. He was on ES News, Ellie Seckbach's channel, and he was like, you know what? I got to be honest. The British fans are better than the American fans because they appreciate the old school fighters. Yeah, we love boxing in this country. But if we hope to see the next Mike Tyson, because there's a lot of British boxing fans, old school British boxing fans who have been crying out for a new Mike Tyson or a new Roy Jones or a new Sugar Ray Leonard or even a new Muhammad Ali, we ain't going to see a new Tyson, Ali, Leonard, etc., Jones. We ain't going to see a new one of any of those guys if the level of interest in American boxing doesn't pick up, because so many of the best American athletes are choosing other sports rather than choosing boxing. So for those people who are fans of the sport in general and are not so caught up in the patriotism, It's in our interest to see American boxing return to the glory days. Yeah, it's in our best interest. So that's why I'm happy to see Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte go over there, because however they do it, if they can revive the interest in boxing, even if it's the whole UK versus US thing and it makes Americans feel patriotic and defensive seeing all these Brits come over, then so be it. As long as I get to see America produce more quality fighters and the sport have a revival. So yeah, that's my take on it. And as far as British fighters never returning to the US, once they go over there, they're never going to come back. Lennox Lewis based most of his championship career in the United States. And I followed Lennox Lewis's championship career at the time. But the reason that Lennox Lewis had to do that back then and only fought in the UK in world title fights, how many times? The Franz Botha fight was in the UK, the Frank Bruno fight was in the UK, and the first Oliver McCall fight was in the UK. Those were the only championship fights he fought in the UK off the top of my head that I can remember. The Donovan Razor Ruddock fight was not a championship fight. That was a WBC final eliminator. So his, 14 other world championship fights were in the United States. But back then, Lennox Lewis was the only major player from Britain in the heavyweight division. He was the only major player. Bruno was kind of, marginally in the world scene, but not really. He did pick up a version of the world title eventually, but he was never such a big player on the world stage as Lennox Lewis was. Frank Bruno almost went down as a nearly man, whereas Lewis was very much front and center on the world scene in heavyweight boxing. But as I say, Lewis was the only guy, basically, in the only heavyweight from Britain who was a major player on the world scene. Whereas today it's very different. Lennox Lewis wasn't selling out 90,000 people at Wembley or 70,000 at the Principality or continuously packing out, 18, 20,000 seat arenas. Lewis wasn't doing any of that. I can assure you that Anthony Joshua is far bigger in the UK than Lennox Lewis ever was. Far bigger. And because of that, it's almost a never, and because of the fact that we've got loads, or let me not say loads, but several major players in the world on the world heavyweight scene who are from the UK. This is different than the Lennox Lewis era. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte. We've even got some people coming through like Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, Nathan Gorman. Potentially, these are also potential major players on the world stage. Because of this, it's not going to be like the Lennox Lewis era. I don't think so anyway. I mean, maybe I'll turn out to be wrong, but from what I can see, the dynamics are different because most of the heavyweight talent these days is in the UK, not in the US. And so when it comes to domestic showdowns between AJ and Fury, or Fury and Whyte, etc., those are going to be in the UK still. So yeah, there might be an increasing number of Anthony Joshua fights, Dillian Whyte or Tyson Fury fights in the US. And that's good as far as I'm concerned. It's good. It helps grow the sport in the United States again. But when it comes to the domestic clashes, they're still going to be in the UK. Most of them, I would imagine. I mean, Frank Warren was asked recently about the possibility of Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte, and he said that's a fight that would certainly be in the UK. That wouldn't be in the US. Makes no sense to have two Brits fighting for a world title in the US. So, yeah, that's my take on it. I think that it's a good thing that Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and maybe even Dillian Whyte are going over to the States. Even if it's long term, I think it's a good thing because American boxing needs a revival. However they bring it about, whether they do it by stoking up the US-UK rivalry or they do it by some other means, I don't know, and I don't care. As long as we get a revival in American boxing, it's good for all true boxing fans. All of those people who are fans of, the Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Joe Frazier era in the 70s. who want to see a new Muhammad Ali, for all those who want to see a new George Foreman, who want to see a new Roy Jones, James Toney, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Tommy Hearns, Gerald McClellan, for all of you who want to see that level of talent emerge from the American boxing scene again, you have to be in favor of anything that can revive American boxing. That means AJ and Fury and Whyte going over there and having loads of their fights over there, so be it. I want to see the talent. Because again, I stay up to 4 a.m. anyway. And how many of you guys, realistically, it's great that AJ and all these guys are filling out arenas and stadiums in the UK. But realistically, how many of you guys actually go and watch Anthony Joshua fight? I mean, tickets for AJ fights are like gold dust, especially decent tickets. If you want to sit all the way back, at the back in Wembley and you have to use a pair of binoculars to see the fight, you could probably get those tickets without too much trouble. But if you want to get tickets anywhere even remotely close to the ring, you're going to be paying through your nose, So how many of you guys are actually going to go to Anthony Joshua fights if he continues to fight in the UK? How many of you are actually going to go to Dillian Whyte fights in the UK? Some of you may go, but most of you are not going to go. Most of you are going to do what I'm doing, pay your pay-per-view and watch it. Well, I watch it on a laptop, but you guys will be watching it on television. That's what most of you are going to do. So yeah, it's a little inconvenient having to stay up late, but if you're someone like me who does it anyway, and I've been doing it for decades, it's not really that big a deal. And as far as British boxing being in a slump, because that's what some people are saying, I think you're going to have peaks and troughs in any boxing scene around the world. You're not going to have just stadium fights and high-profile fights nonstop every month. There's going to be slight peaks and troughs. But I don't see British boxing being on a steady downward trajectory at this point. That's not what I see at all. It's still in the best place it's ever been. Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte, and Tyson Fury are only getting the opportunity to go and fight in the US for big money because British boxing is so strong. They've made so much noise in the UK that there's now demand for them overseas from the American television networks. Yeah. So that doesn't show that British boxing's in a slump. That shows that British boxing is actually stronger than it's ever been. 3 heavyweights from Britain, all in demand by the American networks. There's never been a time in British boxing history, at least not in my lifetime, where something like that has occurred. Anthony Joshua fought last year. Dillian Whyte fought last year, did great numbers. Tyson Fury had his big fight in the United States against Wilder, but even his 2 comeback fights against nondescript opposition, he did well, right? I mean, the first fight against Sefer Safiri, he packed out the MEN. I was probably the first, if not among the first, probably the first person to say that we're about to enter a new golden age of heavyweight boxing. I was saying this several years ago, and here we are. We're in it. And I'm also predicting a slump in boxing worldwide, but we ain't in that slump yet. We're still in the golden age of heavyweights, and we haven't even reached the peak of the golden age, this particular golden age for heavyweights. We ain't even reached the peak of it yet. It's going to get better than this, trust me. But there will be a slump, I think, in boxing worldwide because of the issue with amateur boxing in the Olympics, because of the issue around the AIBA. That is going to cause a slump worldwide in boxing. That's what I'm predicting. I don't know when that slump is going to be. If it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. I would certainly imagine within the next 10 years, it'll probably start. That's what I'm saying. There will be a slump. And Eddie Hearn, look, Eddie Hearn's going to be like his dad. If Eddie Hearn sees a slump and falling viewing figures and falling attendance figures and the British public kind of turning off from boxing, he's going to jump ship, just like his dad did. When Barry Hearn saw that British boxing was no longer viable in terms of turning a good profit, he got out of boxing. Frank Warren stayed, of course. Barry Hearn got the hell out. Eddie Hearn has admitted in the past that he will do the same. He'll jump ship and get out of boxing. He'll bail out if it's no longer profitable. Eventually that day is probably going to come. So yeah, I'm anticipating a slump, not just in British boxing, but worldwide, but not yet. People are being reactionary at the moment. We're still good right now. Don't get it twisted. We still got US networks demanding our fighters over there, paying them unprecedented sums of money. So we're good. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.